Hello, Manira here from Tummy Tuck Rehab, and this video is all about finding the right surgeon to do your tummy tuck. So if you are thinking of getting the tummy tuck procedure, one of the most important things you can do is actually find the right surgeon. How do you do that? Well, this video, Lisa and I are going to be covering the top questions that you can be asking your surgeons when you're going through consultations, so that you get the most information out of them to help you narrow down the right surgeon. All right, let's get to it. All right, hello, welcome back everybody. So today Lisa and I are going to be talking about questions you want to ask your surgeon during the consultation process. So first of all, we do recommend that you are consulting with a number of surgeons. So not just one surgeon. We know that it can be uncomfortable if you go into the surgeon's office for the first time and you feel uncomfortable or vulnerable because you're standing there unclothed. They may be kind of looking at you, possibly marking on you. And that might be an uncomfortable process where you don't want to go see more surgeons. We get that. But we also don't want you to settle for the first surgeon that you've interacted with, because every surgeon is different. And we want you to find the one that you feel the most comfortable with and who will be able to take care of you well. So that means in going through various consultations that you want to know what to ask your surgeons in those consultations to get the most out of it, to get the most information from them, because remember, you are interviewing them. And so that's what this video is all about. We're going to be talking about various talking points that you want to cover in your consultations. We'll break it down for you. We do have a free PDF guide for you that covers a list of questions in each of the categories we're going to talk about right now, but it'll be in even more detail, and that there will be a link to that in the description below. So you can download that and use that as an accompaniment to this video and take that with you to your consultations, because you can just write down the answers and you won't forget what you wanted to ask in the first place. So there are 6 categories of questions or subtopics that you want to really cover when you are in the surgeon's office. They are their experience and expertise. Number 2 is their post-op follow-up protocols. Number 3 is their ideas on your returning to function and fitness. Number 4, aesthetics, what you can expect to look like. Number 5, communication. And number 6 is self-check-in. And we'll explain all of those in a bit more detail in the upcoming few minutes. So Lisa, did you want to start off with the first one?
Sure. So the first one is experience and expertise. And this is kind of a really great place to start, just to be sure that they have the credentials that you want before you decide if you even like them or like the way they do the surgery or the communication or any of that. So you want to check to make sure that they are board certified and look into those types of details. You want to look into how many abdominoplasties they've done, where is the surgery being done, making sure that they have access to, a hospital setting and it's very safe, and they have all of those things that you might need in case of any emergency or anything like that. And that those questions are sometimes you're able to even ask those questions before you set up a consultation. So it can save you some time to kind of go through and look and see, okay, what am I looking for? We have even more details with those in the PDF, so definitely check it out. We have, questions you can just take right off there and ask, and it might even save you a trip in if you decide, I don't know if I necessarily like the qualification of this surgeon. I'm going to start looking elsewhere.
Perfect. Right. And then the second category or topic that you want to cover in your consultations revolves around just post-op follow-up protocols. So what we mean by that is, what do they do? How do they follow up with you after the surgery? Once you have had your surgery, every surgeon will have their own kind of routine set in place on how often they'll ask you to come in to see them, and how often, but also what you can expect inside of those visits. Because a lot of times A lot of people that we've been working with, we know that sometimes you may have a surgery that goes well, but post-op, when you are in that period of your recovery, you're noticing you're not seeing the surgeon that much. Especially in the early post-op period, you might see the nurse actually for the first few visits. Or it might be the physician assistant, and the surgeon may not even be present. So if having the surgeon there and sort of following up with you one-on-one is important to you, you want to ask that in the consultation, because it'll give you some more detail on sort of how comprehensive they are in their own post-op follow-up approach. So keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that not every surgeon will see you on a weekly basis. Sometimes they won't actually even recommend you to come in after the initial healing has taken place. They may not see you beyond the first week or 2 weeks, and then we'll ask you to come in maybe at the 3 month mark, and then maybe 1 year later. So whereas some will see you every week, some will see you every week for the first 6 weeks. So it's very different. You want to find out what they plan on doing for you in the post-op period, so that you get the most adequate care that you feel is important to you. So the next topic that you want to cover in your consultation is about returning to function and fitness. So Lisa, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. So this one is really important because if you have certain movement goals or certain fitness that you like to do, it's very important that you ask specifically, when can you get back to X, Y, and Z, and be very specific with that. The reason is all surgeons kind of have a different return to fitness protocol depending on how they do the surgery, depending on just the way that they do it in general, right? And what they believe for recovery. And there's a lot that goes into it. So you may see 3 surgeons and they may give you a different timeline of when you're allowed to get back to core exercises, when you're allowed to lift heavy, when you're allowed to lift at all, right? And so that's very important, planning for just the general recovery of childcare and all of that, but also getting back to what you love to do at the gym. And so it's very important to kind of take that time and ask those questions. Another question we really enjoy putting in there for you guys is to say, may I take some time right now to go over the movements that I want to get back to post-surgery? And making sure that you have the time to kind of do that, not feel rushed, and really have a good understanding of what movement will look like post tummy tuck.
Perfect. Yeah, there's so much we can talk about in each of these individual categories. There is so much to cover, but at least we are hoping that you're able to see that, at least touch on a few topics, or at least a few points inside of these topics when you're in the consultation office. The next one that is going to be important to talk about is aesthetics. Of course, naturally, you want to know, what are you going to look like afterwards? So that is something that you can do in the office. You can ask them what their approach is to various, aesthetic techniques. You can also take a look at their gallery. They will usually have a pre and post, or before and after comparison of photos of people that they have done surgery on. So you want to take a look at them, and you want to also compare that to the various surgeons that you are consulting with, because you'll often see that there are changes and differences in maybe the way the scar looks, the orientation of the scar, or like how curved or flat it is. You may see differences in what the belly button looks like, so pay attention to that in the pictures, and just find the aesthetic that appeals to you. If that is a very important piece for you, then you want to take a look at the various pictures that are there for you to see what their techniques are. So aesthetic is very important, and also to not overlook the belly button. The belly button can look different post-op, but there are techniques, surgical techniques, to make it look a little bit more, let's say, normal, or like it used to look before having kids. So you can take a look at what the belly buttons are and what they look like in those pictures. So the next category is communication.
Yes. So I will take this one. It's one of my favorite ones. So it gets a little tricky because you want a surgeon that's really good at what they do, okay? And you want to feel like you trust them. But part of that isn't just their technique, it's also the communication. And when we say communication, we don't necessarily mean they necessarily have to have the warmest bedside manner, right? Because as we know, that's not always a thing. But you have to feel comfortable asking as many questions as you want.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read a question from our document word for word right now because I think it's a really good one to ask. It says, I know I will have some questions that we didn't discuss today. How can we best discuss these moving forward? And see what they say. Because as soon as you get in that car, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, and you're going to think of more questions once you get out of that consult, right? And so we need to not be running to Google and panicking and reading an 8 million forums, but we need to also be able to ask the surgeon and see what they say, see if we feel comfortable with what they say, see if that's the surgeon for us, but then also learn more about the surgery through this process of choosing a surgeon, deciding to get the surgery, picking the date. There's going to be a lot of questions till then. Very, very important that you feel very comfortable communicating and not feel like you're a burden or you're annoying them or anything like that. And the final one is our little bonus question, the self check-in. This kind of ties in with communication a little bit, but really kind of checking yourself and saying, do I wholeheartedly trust this surgeon? And really checking your gut for that, not just like, I don't like you were saying earlier, I don't want to go to another consult. It's kind of overwhelming and stressful. And, are you just kind of avoiding that and just kind of going with this person? Or do you really feel like you can trust them? Do you feel supported and listened to? Do you trust the system to support you? So the nurses, the protocols, all the things you're learning about. Do you really feel safe? And that's something that might take a little bit of time to digest, sleep on it. You might not know the next day, right? It might take a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months, but really give yourself that time to do that self check-in.
Amazing. Yeah, very, very important last point there. And so to conclude, we want to reiterate that we recommend going on many consultations, and we want you to try to find the surgeon that understands you, that in that one that you also feel understood, and in terms of your fitness and function goals as well as aesthetic goals, if both are important to you. So in addition to that, we also don't really think you want to choose the lowest cost surgeon, although we know the financial piece of it is a huge factor. But keep in mind that down the line, there may be revisions that you need to have done, and or products and or additional expenses that might incur later on. So it may not be wise to choose the lowest cost surgeon, but rather, again, the one that you feel where you are understood and where you also feel that the surgeon gets what you are really wanting in terms of your goals. So in the end, print out the PDF. We created it for you. It's there just to help you. It's sort of like a checklist kind of thing. You can take it with you, write down more questions on there if you want. And if you have any questions or comments, write them down in the comments below, and we will do our best to answer them for you, or message us. We are hoping that you have a very smooth recovery. But before you get to that, we are also hoping that you have a smoother and easier time trying to find the surgeon that's going to do the operation on you. Okay, until next time, bye for now.
Bye.
So, was that helpful? We hope that you got some value out of the questions in this video. And of course, if you have any questions for us, write them down in the comments below and we will do our best to answer them. Until next time, we hope you have a smooth time researching, preparing for, and then recovering from the tummy tuck surgery.
You can ask the surgeon, so you can figure out what the surgeon's, I just want to do all of that over again.
Fine.